We going? Are we live? I think we're live. Hello everyone. It's me, it's your boy, the early Lord Haven. Back at it again with another live stream. Today we'll be diving into the Varys Iceberg. Looking at all the cool theories associated with Lord Varys himself, the spider, the eunuch, allegedly. Let's begin by going to the very top. Of course, to address the elephant in the room. If you're wondering why I'm half an hour late, I had to do an emergency run to the shop. I had to grab something quickly, and I was like, and someone else wasn't able to do it, so I had to do it. So I had to run to shop, come back, and then when I got back, I had to sit down and make the entire iceberg from scratch, which takes a lot longer than you would think, because I like including funny pictures on the side. That honestly takes up most of the time, but who cares? Most people watching this aren't going to be watching it live, so they won't care when it was posted. Haha. Let's get on with it. Yeah, before we begin, I guess, let's zoom in a little bit. Let's have a cheeky zoom. There we go. Yeah. Before we begin, I will say, like the video, if you want to help this video spread, and if you have any question or theory or anything, feel free to send it in the form of a super chat. I'll super appreciate that, because it'll be supporting the channel, because this is my job. Of course, if you send it a super chat via YouTube, YouTube does take a cut. So if you want to send me a tip where I get 100% of it, click on the Streamlabs donation link in the description and you can tip me something. And then the tips from Streamlabs I'll read out at the beginning of my next live stream, because I'm streaming through OBS right now and not Streamlabs, because Streamlabs keeps crashing for me for some reason. So while I'm working that out, yeah, that's how we'll do it. But anyway, now that I've got the official stuff out of the way, let's get on with the show. How's everyone been doing? Let's check the chat. People gradually going insane the longer it took me to begin the stream. Alright, let's start. So, the very first theory, here at the very top, is Varys Blackfyre. So this is at the top because the Blackfyre theory has been talked about to death, to the point that I don't think it's, at this point, it's not like a deep iceberg theory. It's for many people, it's common acceptance that young Griff is a Blackfyre, right? I think more people believe, more, hardcore book fans, book readers, believe that young Griff is a Blackfyre than a Targaryen, even though it's an unconfirmed theory, because it fits together so well. So just to run through the basics of this, although I'm sure you know lots about it, the theory here expands beyond the whole young Griff Blackfyre thing. So the young Griff thing is that he's not actually a Targaryen, it's all a lie, he's a Blackfyre, he's the last of the male line, or maybe he's descended from the female line, and it's all a giant Blackfyre conspiracy to get a Blackfyre on the throne who's pretending to be a Targaryen. That's the reason the Golden Company support him. It links to an interesting visual metaphor in another part of, I believe, Feast for Crows, where there's a black dragon, like a black dragon signpost of a tavern had grown old and red with rust. There's a black dragon turning red, like a Blackfyre turning Targaryen. So lots of people suspect Aegon Targaryen, Aegon the Sixth, invading Westeros, is secretly a Blackfyre. But the Varys Blackfyre theory posits that Varys himself is somehow related to young Griff. The most common theory is that young Griff's father is Illyrio Mopatis, Varys' friend, and that young Griff's mother is Serra Mopatis, formerly Serra Blackfyre, and that Varys is her brother, Varys Blackfyre. And so, he knows Illyrio because he's basically Illyrio's brother-in-law. And the idea here is that there's that deep personal blood connection. He wants his nephew on the throne. He wants his sister's son, his best friend and brother-in-law's son on the throne. Do I believe it? I personally, no. I mean, do I believe the Blackfyre theory generally? Yes, I do. I think it's more likely than not that Aegon VI is a Blackfyre. Do I believe that Varys is a Blackfyre uncle? No. I think he is just kind of a nobody, like a Lyseni nobody who's risen through the ranks, but I would not be disappointed if he were. If it were revealed that he was a Blackfyre and he is young Griff's uncle and, last of the male line, because technically he would be the last of the male line perhaps, but because he's castrated it doesn't count, right? When Illyrio says there is no last of the male line. But yeah, so basically it could be true. I wouldn't be disappointed if it were true. I think it would be fine, but I think, personally, I don't think he's a Blackfyre. But what's this next theory? If we go into the theory that's still here, way above the iceberg, it's kind of a follow-on from Varys Blackfyre. It's Varys Brightflame. So the idea here is that Varys is a descendant from Arya Brightflame. So I guess this theory can go in two different directions. For one, you replace the entire Blackfyre conspiracy with the Brightflame conspiracy. So the idea that young Griff is actually a Brightflame, and therefore if Varys is his uncle, then Varys would be a Brightflame. And for those who need a little brain jog, a little memory jog, Arya Brightflame was the sadistic older brother of who would become King Aegon V. He died by drinking wildfire, and he had one son with his wife called Maegor, and Maegor was not voted for during that Great Council because the lords of Westeros were scared that, his father was crazy, he's given the name Maegor, he's a baby, right? So that would be a long regency, lots of stuff could go wrong, let's not vote for this child. And the idea is that perhaps Maegor had kids, blah blah blah, and that Varys is a Brightflame. Or maybe he's a Brightflame bastard, because Arya Brightflame was exiled to Lys for a few years, and Varys was born in Lys. Maybe there's a line of Brightflame bastards going down to Varys. Probably not. Now, I quite like the idea that George R. R. Martin originally planned for a bastard pretender, and that they were going to be Brightflames, where he had seeded Arya Brightflame already in The Hedge Knight, the Dunk and Egg novella. And in the second book, he doesn't really touch upon it in the first book, but in the second book, there's all the stuff about, hold on a second. I'll be back in a second. There we go. Anyway, yes. Why have I got my headphones on? I'm not listening to anything. I take my headphones off. But yes, when Daenerys is in the House of the Undying, she has the vision, right, of the cloth dragon on poles and so on, and it's the whole idea about the lie, right? This some sort of pretender, some sort of fake dragon. And so I think George always had this idea, but he only mentions the Blackfyres starting with a Storm of Swords, the third book, and then he introduces the Blackfyres in the other Dunk and Egg novellas. So you get the impression that originally he hadn't thought of the Blackfyres, and then boom, he came up with this really awesome idea. But before he came up with them, he still had some general idea of a cloth dragon, the Mummer's dragon, some kind of puppet. Whether Mummer's dragon means, fake actor dragon, or literally Varys' dragon, because Varys is a mummer, we don't know. But if the Blackfyres hadn't been come up with yet, what other branch could there be? There could be the Brightflames. So Varys Brightflame may have been on the cards back in the day, but probably not anymore. But at some point it may have been true. But that was, the Blackfyre Brightflame. We know about all this. That's high in the air. Let's move down to the very top tip of the iceberg. Daenerys will kill Varys. So the reason this is so high up is because it happens in the show, and not entirely sure how much of the show ending is going to be accurate, how much of it is taken from notes given by George R. R. Martin to Benioff and Weiss, and then they manoeuvred and twisted and squeezed the show into a certain direction that didn't really make much sense. But maybe one of those notes, is Daenerys kills Varys, and they took that, and of course in the show it's somewhat nonsensical and silly, and no one's really acting like themselves, but in the books it could be different. Varys isn't actively supporting Daenerys, so maybe, who knows, maybe if Daenerys goes Mad Queen, she could burn down the Red Keep and King's Landing like in the show, and maybe Varys is a victim of that. Or maybe she conquers King's Landing and captures young Griff and all of his supporters like Jon Con, Illyrio, Varys, and will be like, you know, your traitors, your Blackfyres, your whatever, and then has him executed. Or maybe, who knows, maybe the same thing will happen in the show. Maybe he will support Daenerys suddenly and then not want to support Daenerys because she looked grumpy at a feast, and then wants to support Jon Snow after finding out he's Rhaegar, and then tries to have Daenerys poisoned and then silently burns to death. Can I just say, that whole scene after the long night where everyone's feasting and drinking and celebrating and Daenerys looks really sad and like angry that people are like praising Jon. It's like, what? Why are you so insecure? Why do you care? Like, people are literally like, yeah, the Dragon Queen, yay, amazing, and then Tormund's like, and Jon Snow, he's great, and Daenerys is like bitch face in the corner, and it's like, what? Why are you so mad? Oh, anyway. So, will Dany kill Varys? Very possibly. Very possibly. If he is siding with young Griff, and it seems like the seeds are being sown for some kind of second Dance of the Dragons, some kind of Daenerys versus Aegon Targaryen / Aegon Blackfyre, then Varys could be on the losing side in that spat, and he could end up burning to death. Alternatively, if we go further on down the iceberg, below the surface of the water, into the deep dark depths, we can see Jon Con will kill Varys. So the idea behind this theory in particular is that Jon Connington, well, we know he's not a Blackfyre, right? We know that he is I imagine, unless there's something being hidden from us in his POV, he is pro-Targaryen. He was a Targaryen loyalist during Robert's Rebellion. He was in love with Rhaegar. He genuinely believes that young Griff is Rhaegar's son, and he sort of, you know, maybe in a weird kind of way, the son he never had with Rhaegar kind of vibes. And if Jon Connington, who has dedicated the last decade of his life to, well, more than that, a couple decades to getting young Griff on the throne, who, you know, has gone through all kind of trials and tribulations, including catching grayscale, from which he's dying, and, you know, if he goes through all that and he's on the way out and his final act is to get young Griff on the throne, then he finds out, oh, he's not really Rhaegar's son. He's actually a Blackfyre. It's a big, slimy Blackfyre conspiracy cooked up by Varys and Illyrio themselves. Jon Con could lose it and be like, screw you, and kill Varys. And of course, in the show, there's no Jon Con, so maybe if the note said Jon Con kills Varys, Benioff and Weiss may have been like, oh, okay, we don't have Jon Con, so it makes sense for it to be someone in Daenerys' camp. Let's have it be Daenerys herself. Do I think this could happen? It could do. You know, it could be Varys' schemes catch up with him, and Jon Con is just a straightforward military guy, and he's like, screw you, and just like shoves a sword in his throat. Possibly. Or even, I don't know, smothers his grayscale infected hand in his face, like, fuck you, Varys. But I'm not sure. You know what? Last time we did some polls in a chat to see who believed what theory. But then that made the live stream crash because I was using Streamlabs. But right now I'm using OBS. So let me know in the chat if you're interested in me hosting polls for these theories to know what the community think, what you guys think about each of these theories. Because that's lots of fun. You know what? I'm not even gonna wait. I'm gonna yeah. Let's host the polls now. So let's begin with Varys Blackfyre. Oh, no, you can close. We don't need you anymore. Let's begin with Varys Blackfyre. Wait, how do I... there we go. Varys Blackfyre, yes or no? Check the chat. I want to know the percentages. Who believes that Varys is a Blackfyre? So most likely young Griff's uncle. But I believe it's time to move on. While we're waiting for the people to vote, let's go further down into the dark depths of the water. And here we have the Zuma invasion. which is a theory. The theory name is coined by me. I don't think I necessarily came up with this. I'm sure someone else has come up with this concept before. It's just merging different concepts together. So it's the idea that Varys has a bunch of Zoomers taking over Westeros. And that the south of Westeros, at least, will be ruled by young people. No, actually, all of Westeros could end up being ruled by young people, but I guess to an extent, mirroring the Dance of the Dragons, where so many lords died that they were like children and babies in power. But let's go through each of them. First off, obviously, we've talked about him enough. Young Griff, he's like 18 years old or something. Aegon Targaryen / Blackfyre himself, he will be, to an extent, Varys' puppet on the Iron Throne. At least that's what he wants him to be. But how does he take the Westerlands? Well, Tyrek Lannister went missing during the King's Landing riot. What if Varys swoops in and says, Tywin's dead, Tyrion's in exile, Jaime, at this point maybe Jaime and Cersei are dead, or whatever, Jaime is missing, or in the King's Guard, Cersei is Mad Queen or something. Varys could say, hey, I've got a Lannister who can rule Castle Rock, so calm down Westerlands, calm down. I'm putting a Lannister in charge, status quo, but it's Tyrek Lannister. And he's like 13, 14 probably by the latest book. So another teenager put in charge. Last seen a horse, and now this horse will be sitting on the lion throne of Castle Rock. But that's not all. There's also the matter of the Stormlands and Storm's End. Maybe Varys has a Baratheon waiting in the wings. So, we know that Edric Storm is the acknowledged bastard of Robert Baratheon. The bastard of Robert Baratheon and... Who's the mother? Oh, yes, Delena Florent. A Florent woman. And so Edric Storm is described as having, like, both features, right? He's kind of got like the dark hair, blue eyes, strong chin of Baratheons, but he's also got the sticky out Florentines. But Stannis, because he has King's blood, Stannis wants to sacrifice him to the flames, or at least, he feels like that's what he has to do. Melisandre is the one who's pushing it. And so Davos decides to save his life, and he is sent off to Lys. Well, Varys has spies everywhere. The Golden Company's based in Essos. Maybe they have men in Lys. Maybe they discovered Edric Storm. And young Griff can legitimize him as Edric Baratheon. And so he's like 10, 11, 12 years old. So that's another kid, that's another Zoomer in power as a puppet. We have Edric Baratheon, we have Tyrek Lannister, and we have Aegon Targaryen, a bunch of teens. It's the Zoomer invasion. Now, let's say Doran dies. Who's taking over? Arianne Martell or Trystane Martell? So, young people. In the Riverlands, if the Tullys get back in power, it's going to be Lord Edmure. He's a young man, like early 30s, right? A child literally rules the Vale, Robert Arryn, and if Sweet Robin dies, Harold Harding, a young man. What about the North? Who could end up ruling the North? Probably, if it happens the same way it does in the show, Jon Snow, who's also a teenager. So, we've just got young men and teenagers. Zoomer resurgence all throughout Westeros. Let's see what the poll says. We have 57% voted yes for Varys Blackfyre. 57% say yes, 43% say no. Okay, so solidly yes, but there's still a lot of no's. There's still a lot of people going, no, he's not a Blackfyre. I'm kind of surprised the yes won that one, actually, because like I said, I knew it would be close because it is possible. It's now 55 to 45. And it's gone back to 56, 44. I knew it would be, I think it could be possible, but my instinct is that he isn't. But looks like most of you think yes, he is. Before we move on to the next theory, I'll post another poll, and this one will be Varys Brightflame. Do you think that Varys Brightflame is legit? My guess is no, but who knows? There might be some Brightflame stands in the comments. Shall we move on to the next theory? Right. So, for those wondering what on earth is going on in that picture, that is Conleth Hill, the actor for Varys, dressed up as a Smurf, the girl Smurf. I don't know if a Smurfette, that's her name, right? That's Varys' actor dressed up as Smurfette, You're not getting any more context. So, first up, Varys is not a eunuch. The idea here is that he's faking it. That he is as I talk about in my video, Varys is playing the role of the sly, giggling, high-pitched, effeminate, obsequious eunuch, wearing his fancy robes, smelling sweetly, almost sickly sweet, Well, what's that description from Game of Thrones? He smells like flowers on a graveyard, they're kind of sickly sweet. There's something wrong with it. And he's got the powdered face, and he has his hands in his robes, and he's playing a character. I think George R. Martin was clearly inspired by the eunuchs of Imperial China, these political advisors who are sort of... We view them as these sort of subservient, scheming eunuchs. And Varys is playing to that stereotype because it means people don't know what he's after deep down. And he's capable of playing other characters. So obviously we see him play a woman, right? But we also see him play a jailer called Rugen, who's described as having quite a rough voice. And when he laughs in front of Ned Stark in the cell, he doesn't do his high-pitched Varys giggle, like hee hee hee. He does a throaty, deeper laugh, which suggests maybe he's not a eunuch after all. Maybe the eunuch persona is fully a persona and he has not been cut. He is acting, and he, secretly he's got a deeper voice, he's got a deeper laugh. He is playing a role. Now, personally, I don't buy this theory because I think, just narratively and character-wise, I think it's way, way, way more interesting for Varys to be a eunuch, for that to be motivating. That's the drive behind what he does. Like, he literally was left for dead, and he went, screw that. Out of spite, I'm gonna survive. I'm gonna steal and sell and prostitute myself and team up with people and gather information and have my little birds and little mice and get to the point where he became Master of Whisperers in the Red Keep, and his ambitions go even beyond that. So that being the spiteful, traumatic, that was a traumatic event that pushed him to be quite hardened, out of spite. He survived out of spite. And I think it is kind of important to him that that's part of his character. That's who he is, combined with the whole idea that he's scared of magic, which hopefully will come into play in some form or another. And also, on top of that, that he, as I talked about in my previous live stream and my Varys video, that being a prepubescent boy who was castrated, who did not develop a sex drive in the same way most people do, and so as a result he is not distracted by sexual desire and lust as others are, like fellow schemers like Tyrion, right? Shay was a huge blind spot for him, like Littlefinger. Sansa is obviously a huge blind spot for him and will probably be his downfall. Doesn't mean he's not capable of any romantic feelings or love or anything like that, but like sexually he's not distracted by that kind of stuff. And I think again, him not being a eunuch is an interesting idea, but it's not as interesting as him being a eunuch. I think that's way cooler. That's way cooler for his character. So, checking out the poll, 65% say no, Varys is not a Brightflame. 35% say yes, he is. That's a very high percent. That's a high percent. Come on, I'm ending the poll. Who genuinely thinks Varys is a Brightflame? Oh, interesting. In the chat, Carl Karsnark says, in real life, Chinese eunuchs leaked urine constantly and could be smelled long before they entered a room, hence all of the perfume. Wow, that's really cool. That's honestly fascinating. I wonder if Varys be leaking. Before we move on to our next theory, I do have a super chat. So thank you from Vandelman, who says, Alt-Shift-X refused to answer any of my milk-based or milk-cringe questions. Thanks for being the best ASoIaF YouTuber. Yeah. You're the guy who asked me about Lysa milk. You're the guy who inspired me to draw the little Lysa milk bottles that I sometimes have as a cameo in the back of my videos when it's set in the Vale or the Eyrie. Yes, I'm sure I remember watching some Alt-Shift live stream where there was a milk question and he refused to answer. Every now and then he'll refuse to answer a joke that's too cheeky or too edgy or like whatever, and he just kind of avoids it. But hey, if you got a milk question for me, I will answer it. I'll answer any question you throw my way. Right, okay. Next poll. Our next poll shall be, will Dany kill Varys? As I talked about earlier. What does everyone think? Keyboard ASMR. Okay, the poll is in the chat. Feel free to vote. Will Dany kill Varys? Like in the show. Oh, well, not necessarily exactly in the show, but will he essentially have the same outcome? Daenerys will order his death, and he'll become a crisped spider. A charred eunuch. Immediately, the nose leapt up. Leapt up. Okay, so let's move on to Varys is a woman. So this kind of links into the not a eunuch idea, that he's not a eunuch, but that's because he's a woman. So everyone assumes he's a man because he says he's a man, but he's faking it. He's a woman, and he's risen through the ranks as a master thief, as a hoarder of information, a master of knowledge, a spy master, and he's got himself in the small council of both Aerys II and Robert Baratheon. Oh, and of course Joffrey and so on, and Tommen for a little bit. But he wouldn't really be allowed on the small council if he were a woman, right? The only woman to have technically sat any kind of small council beyond like Rhaenyra and Good Queen Alicent and so on, but I mean like as an official position, would be Maegor the Cruel's mistress, Tiana of the Tower. But even then, she wasn't in. She was like the first spy master of any king, but in an unofficial capacity. She was known as the Mistress of Whispers, but she was never. I don't think she officially sat any kind of council. And so, women are not really allowed on a council. It's a relatively patriarchal society, of course, set in medieval times. So, if Varys was a woman, hey, how do I rise in power? How do I get people to respect me? I'll pretend to be a man. How can I successfully do that? I'll pretend to be a woman, right? Shave my head. I'm plump. I'm bald. I don't have genitals. I wear baggy robes. People could just... I can tell I have a high-pitched voice. People will think I'm a eunuch if I tell them, but I'm secretly a woman. So I don't think this is true. There's not really much like... there aren't really any hints or like foreshadowing or anything to imply he's a woman. It's just a possibility. It's like, yeah, well, I guess he could be a woman, but I don't. Yeah, I'd be surprised. It would come out of nowhere, You could argue that Varys Blackfyre, because the Blackfyre thing with young Griff, the hints have been set up, and we know he's friends with Illyrio and so on, and his backstory is kind of mysterious, and there's the whole like castration ritual could be king's blood. So with Varys Blackfyre, that is somewhat seeded. Varys being a woman isn't really seeded. It's more just something that could happen and would be cool, but doesn't... I don't know. It would be kind of out of left field. And it's a really cool concept in general, like the idea of a eunuch on a council who's secretly a woman. But I don't know if it quite fits Varys. Doesn't quite fit Varys. How's the poll doing? Will Dany kill Varys? 83% say no, 17% say yes. More people believed that Varys is a Brightflame than believe that Daenerys will kill Varys. That's insane. Okay, I'll end the poll there. You really don't think... I wonder, people who voted no to that, most of you, was that kind of like out of spite because you don't like the show ending? You're like, screw that. Better not be like the show. Or do you generally think there's no way? Because I can easily see Daenerys versus young Griff, second dance with the dragons, and Varys is somehow caught in the crossfire. He's executed by Daenerys, or he is destroyed with the city if the city is destroyed, or whatever. Another super chat from Vandalman, thank you so much, who says, would you rather eat 1 cup of King Balon's royal jelly, his eyes, not the other thing that sounds like, or drink 3 gallons of Lysa brand milk? Lysa brand, of course, is trademarked. King Balon's royal jelly, his eyes. So, Balon's eyes or Lysa's titty milk? I mean, obviously, I would rather drink milk. You know, I it's Lysa, right? So it's going to be sour. It's going to be weird, but it is palatable. I can drink it, right? It'll be nutritious as well. I'm not going to eat some raw eyes of some gross old dude. Not an Iron... Oh, Iron Islander eyes must be so fucking salty too. Can you imagine you dig into an Iron Islander eye, an Ironborn eye, and it's just like so salty? I feel like the eyes of a Reachman. That's tasty. That's like fresh. You know, the eyes of a Dornishman, there's a bit of spice. There's a bit of a kick to that. You know, if they're salty Dornish, there's a bit of a kick. If they're sandy Dornish, forget about it. Your throat's going to be on fire. If you have like a northerner eyeball, I bet it's like really cold. It's really chilly, you know. Anyway, moving on. So yes, just to clarify, 3 gallons is a lot though. I don't think I acknowledge the 3 gallons bit. I mean, I like milk generally, so you know, why not? I'm not making that a poll, but all right. Yeah, you don't get that on any Alt Shift X live stream, probably because he has a brand deal with Audible, so he can chip post on the Alt Shift X. Alt Shift X, I think, is more serious. Maybe I should do that. Maybe I should make Fantasy Haven more serious, more corporate, get more sponsors, not answer questions about Lysa's milk. Anyway, next poll. What was the next poll? Oh, that Jon Con will kill Varys. Who believes that Jon Connington will murder Varys? Or execute Varys, or grayscale him, or something. Will Jon Con kill Varys, yes or no? The poll is out in the chat. Feel free to vote. And while people are voting, let's go down to the next tier. Here we have a lovely Pop Funko Varys. So Arya will kill Varys. This is one theory I came across while I was hunting for Varys theories. It's the idea... Let me break it down. So essentially, it's the idea that Arya will mirror Sansa like how Varys mirrors Littlefinger. So Sansa will probably take down Littlefinger, and so the spy master that Arya will take down has to be Varys. And there's some kind of links there in terms of Littlefinger is a traditional schemer and mover, many machinations, you know, and likewise Sansa is his apprentice and is following in his footsteps and is becoming a similar schemer and Machiavellian. Meanwhile, Varys is a lot more about disguises and stealth, and likewise Arya, she's training with the faceless men to be stealthy. She's kind of training to be an actress, right? She's in the Winds of Winter sample chapter, Mercy. She is taking part in a play, a kind of Shakespearean play called The Bloody Hand, which we see in season 6 of the show, although it's interpreted more as a kind of farcical comedy, which is quite funny. Meta, that's an interesting, you know, but full of fart jokes and so on. But yeah. Where was I? I got distracted. Yes, Arya's training to be an actress. She's training to be a faceless man, so different faces. You embody them. You have a different voice. You have different body language. You have to disguise yourself. And so maybe the stealthy master of disguise will be assassinated by the budding master of disguise, Arya. I think it's a massive stretch. Arya and Varys don't really have anything to do with each other. In the plot, it'll be kind of random. Yeah, kind of random. Not sure if I buy it, but an interesting theory nonetheless. So, interestingly, the poll, will Jon Con kill Varys, is massively split. 51% yes. 50-50. Okay, now it's getting interesting. We've hit 50-50. Yes, no. 48 people are equally split on whether Jon Connington will kill Varys. That's cool. Okay, will there be a tiebreak? Will there be a tiebreak? I'll end the poll as soon as there's a tiebreak. Or maybe I shouldn't. Maybe I should just end the poll now while it's 50-50. Let's do that. Let's end the poll. The poll is done. 50-50. A nice round 50-50. You don't see that often. Okay. And I believe the next poll will have to be about the Zuma invasion. Actually, I'm not sure if is that worth a poll. I think let's skip to the Arya one. So, Arya will kill Varys. How many people believe that Arya will kill Varys? Yes or no? The poll is in the chat. Let's have a look at the chat. What's going on here? Okay. So, let's go down. We have now reached the bottom of the iceberg and we are going further down into the dark, dark depths of the sea. Varys will be sacrificed to R'hllor. Now, most of you are probably thinking, hold on a second, how is that going to work? What's that all about? So, we're going to have to bring in some show stuff into this theory. So we know that Varys is scared of magic, or at least he tells Tyrion he hates magic, is scared of magic, and it relates to that time when he was a kid. He was castrated, it was thrown in the flames by like a madman, and he claims to have heard a voice in the flames. Now, George R. R. Martin has said that doesn't mean we can, just because he says that, doesn't mean we can trust him. And also doesn't mean that he heard correctly. You know, could be a false memory. Maybe he was a terrified kid and he did hear a voice in the flames, but it wasn't really there, so we're not sure. But either way, if he is not lying to Tyrion, if he is not lying to the reader, then Varys is scared of magic, or he's against magic, he's anti-magic. And so that kind of links into my previous theory about Daenerys killing him and him being burnt to death in the show. You know, he hates magic, and what symbolizes magic better than dragons, right? The personification of magic. But maybe it will relate to R'hllor and R'hlorism and all that stuff. So it's interesting. In the show, we had different red priests and priestesses in Meereen and so on, constantly talking about, you know, Daenerys being Azor Ahai, and they all support her, and you know, we see some of that in the books, right? I believe the High Priest Benero of the Temple of Volantis thinks Daenerys is Azor Ahai, and we have a load of R'hllorists who support her cause, and of course, you know, they worship fire, they worship a fire god, and she rides fire-breathing dragons, so it's kind of natural. And then R'hlorism appears to be spreading in Westeros, especially in the Riverlands and at the wall among Melisandre and Queen Selyse's followers. And so we could get to the point where Daenerys is basically leading this fiery cult. She is like a Jesus-like figure to a fiery cult. Maybe adding to that theory that Daenerys' entire arc is essentially one giant villain origin story that we haven't realized. That, you know, she is a dragon queen. She rides dragons. Her symbol is literally red and black, which is the most villainous combo, right? When you think about it. She's going to have an evil dwarf dripping poison into her ear in the form of Tyrion. She's got like her lover is like this psychopathic sellsword captain, Dario Naharis. You know, she's got an army of eunuch slaves and Dothraki savages and sellsword mercenaries, and on top of all of this, maybe you got a bunch of fire worshipping, sacrificing cultists behind her, and you know, just full blown villain. So I'm thinking, linking in with Varys' fear of magic, maybe Varys will not be killed specifically by Daenerys or burnt by Daenerys the dragon, but will be sacrificed to R'hllor. So maybe Daenerys converts, right, and sacrifices, or maybe she is sacrificed on behalf of Daenerys, or whatever. R'hlorism spreads, Varys is sacrificed, and it's a dark, cruelly ironic death because he is so hateful of magic. And from what we've seen, red priestesses are capable of some form of magic. And in the show, like I said, we see a red priest, a couple of red priestesses in Meereen. We see as this picture. This is Kinvara, of course, the high priestess of the Temple of Volantis, because Benioff and Weiss were like, In the books, the high priest is a bald, skinny, ugly guy with a tattoo called Benero. let's hire a big titty Jewish woman instead. And so then we had Kinvara. So that was pretty based of Benioff and Weiss. But that doesn't go anywhere. Right? The whole High Priestess thing doesn't go anywhere. The Azor Ahai prophecy, Relorism, it is completely irrelevant in that final season. There's some lip service given to, why does the Lord of Light keep bringing back Beric Dondarrion specifically? Is it so that he can stand in front of a doorway and get shanked 3 times and give Arya 5 seconds to escape, or who then goes on to kill the Night King? I don't know. Very stupid. But maybe Benioff and Weiss's original idea was, let's talk about this growing religion. Let's show off the priestesses. We got Kinvara, we got Melisandre. Let's talk about Azor Ahai. They talk a little bit about Azor Ahai in season 7 before they drop that plot point. Maybe the Faith of R'hllor was going to have a bigger role in season 8, and it just didn't. And maybe Varys was going to be sacrificed. And then when they dropped that plot point, they went, let's just have him be burned by Daenerys instead. There we go. But I didn't do this intentionally. I just realized the Funko Pop Varys looks like Kinvara's head. Personally, I really do not believe this. I think it's a cool idea, but I don't know. It could happen. It's like either or, 50-50 to me. Maybe he is, if the story goes in that direction, but I think it's too early to tell almost. But that seems like a fun poll to do. Let's check it out, shall we? Do you believe... I need to end the previous poll. Okay, so, will Arya kill Varys? 79% of people say no, 20% say yes. 79-20, what? Wait, hold on, what? Hold on a sec. That doesn't make sense. Okay, next poll. Varys will be sacrificed to R'hllor. Yes or no? It's in the chat. Feel free to vote. Do you think that's what's going to happen? Kinvara's the best character in the show, says someone. Oh, death by wildfire, some people are saying. Maybe. Yeah, it seems like, I know, because of his death in the show, people really seem to be fixated on the idea that he will be burned. That it has to be some kind of burn-related death. Yeah, Boombler says, I really like the idea that Dany will embrace the Faith of R'hllor because she believes herself to be Azor Ahai. Me too. Like I said, I think they flirted with that in season 7 and then dropped that, but just to add to the whole, villain origin story, it would be so cool if, on top of everything, the mercenaries, the slave army, the evil dwarf hand, all this stuff, that, she's basically, I am Jesus, and she has a bunch of fire worshippers following her, and, by the last book, you're like, shit, she's kind of the bad guy. Or at least the world perceives her like that from the outside because they haven't seen her story. They don't see or her thought process, which we do get to see. Okay, let's move on from Kinvara's face here to Varys Clubfoot. Now this is an interesting one. And on the right, of course, we can see Conleth Hill. Photos taken moments after disaster. That was him reading his death in the table read and putting the script down and not looking very happy. So we're in the dark depths of the ocean right now. Varys Clubfoot. So the idea here is that Larry Clubfoot, Larys from The Dance of the Dragons, from House of the Dragon, the footboy himself, personally subscribed to Alison's OnlyFans, that Larys acts as a piece of foreshadowing for Varys. A parallel, if you will, a historical parallel. The most obvious one being that Varys and Larys, very similar names, but also this theory deals with, and of course, they're both spy masters, they both have a network of spies, etc. But this theory deals with their climax, the conclusion of their stories. So, if you don't want to be spoiled for what happens to Larys Clubfoot in House of the Dragon some point in the future, what his fate is, then skip ahead by a minute, or mute the stream for a minute if you're live. But I'm going to be talking about that. So, 3, 2, One. Okay, so Fire and Blood, we learn that Larry Clubfoot is beheaded by Lord Cregan Stark. His foot's cut off and then his head's cut off. And this is because, it's chaos in King's Landing. Aegon II is a bit of a tyrant, and there's a small conspiracy that's like, okay, we need to get rid of him as fast as possible. Get rid of him and install Aegon III for the sake of stability and maintaining power and so on. So they poison Aegon II, but Cregan Stark is like, I'm an honourable wolf, I'm not going to allow this, and then he executes the conspirators, including Larys, who doesn't want to be sent to the Night's Watch. And the theory posits that, similarly, maybe we'll have a situation where Daenerys is in that Aegon II role, Mad Queen, maybe she gets assassinated or something goes down, and Jon Snow plays that Cregan Stark figure, and he's the one who comes to King's Landing and is like, we need to restore order, I'm going to have Hour of the Wolf, Hour of the White Wolf, and he will behead Varys, who maybe will take part in that conspiracy. Do I think this is going to happen? No, because I really don't buy the idea. Well, okay. So I've never really bought the idea that George deliberately has very obvious parallels between past storylines and characters and modern storylines and characters. Partly because I've always thought to myself, I wouldn't do that myself, right? And so I kind of projected that on George a bit. I was like, I don't like the idea of him being like, I'm just going to remake a character I've already made, but I'm going to have him in the past, and it's a deliberate parallel. It's the same thing. History repeats. Blah blah blah. It's like poetry. It rhymes. I always thought that was kind of lame, so I was like, we don't know for sure if he's doing that. But lots of YouTubers are constantly like, yes, he's doing it intentionally. Of course. But he did an interview with History of Westeros, who have a cool series called, what's it called? Something Parallel Lives. That's it. Where they deliberately are like, this historical character is like this Song of Ice and Fire character, which is cool, right? It's a cool way to interpret things. And they bring it up to George, and they're like, just to clarify, is this intentional? And George R. R. Martin literally says, no. I don't like repeating myself. I don't like repeating plot points and characters. I try to make unique things every time I do a story, whether it's set in the past of Westeros or the present day or the future or whatever. And if there are parallels, then it's subconscious. It's that he's drawing from the same creative reservoir, and he'll be taking some stuff he's already taken before. So, yeah, I don't think there'll be a obvious Hour of the Wolf parallel. I think that would be very lame and uninspired. Okay. What does the poll say, though? What does the poll say? Will Varys be sacrificed to R'hllor? 71% of people say no. No. Varys will not be sacrificed to the Red God. To the Lord of Light. Is the Red God and the Lord of Light the same? I'm not sure, actually. Anyway. And only 28% say yes. So, yeah. That's what I expected. Excuse me. That's what I expected. It's not the most obvious thing to happen. But let's throw out a new poll, which is obviously... I guess just Varys Clubfoot, yes or no? Do you think there will be a Hour of the Wolf situation? Do you think Varys will have the same fate as Larys? Yes or no? Let me know. The poll has started and it's dropped. Check it out in the chat. Okay. Speaking of House of the Dragon, 8 weeks, people. No, not 8 weeks. Like slightly over 7 weeks. I've got slightly over 7 weeks, and my patrons know I'm working on some videos. I'm working on 5 videos, in fact, to be released while Hot D is out. So when Hot D is out, you're gonna get live streams, hopefully with Quinn the GM. You may get reviews, you may get episode breakdowns, but you're also gonna get, for 5 of those 8 weeks, you're gonna get a special pre-prepared animated video. So that'll be fun. Right. Let's descend further down the iceberg. We're near the end. We're not at the end yet, but we're very close. Varys is a warg. So I think the main driving force behind this theory is the idea that every single character under the sun has to be a warg, apparently. Like, everyone has to be a warg. And And a Targaryen. If you're not a secret Targaryen, then you're a secret warg. So people theorize that Larys from the show is actually a warg and he has a spy network of rats. Likewise, maybe Varys's little mice in Essos and little birds in King's Landing are literally little birds. Maybe he is warging birds and spying on people, and he refers to his little birds, and some of them are children, but most of them are a network of pigeons and crows and ravens and all that kind of stuff. Parrots even, who knows? How did he gain so much power? How did he have so much influence? How did he know so much? How is his network so big? It's because he spies via animals. Maybe that's why he was castrated in the first place. Oh, you have warg blood. I'm going to sacrifice your penis and balls. Who knows? Do I think this is true? No, there's not much to this theory. It's just the classic, everyone has to be a warg. I don't think he's a warg. I really don't. Haven, do you plan to do some Kingdom Come Deliverance content? I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's not fantasy. It's a game set in medieval times, right? Medieval Central Europe, right? Kingdom Come Deliverance. So there's not really much to say. Unless you're like, would I play any and do a playthrough? Maybe. That could be cool. Yeah, Carl says, Quinn is the best work wife a guy could ever ask for. He's nearly finished his term, right? And when he's done, I'm going to be dragging his ass onto a bunch of live streams. We're going to be doing like game shows, House of Dragon predictions, some more trial streams on his channel, some more schema ranking, all that kind of stuff. And of course... Oh, actually, here's a fun little question for you. Let me know. I'm reading the chat right now. Let me know. When would you like to see post-episode live stream breakdowns, reviews, etc. with me and with Quinn the GM and myself? When would you like that? So, it could be directly after the episode comes out. Like, episode's done, I don't know, half an hour later, boom, live stream. But of course that will clash with bigger YouTubers like AltShiftX and so on. Or would you like to see it the day after, or a couple of days after? So that you have time to kind of see each of your favourite YouTubers' live streams. What would you like? A live stream that's right after the episode, or maybe a day or after, or a day or two after, or whatever? Let me know. How's the poll doing? 47 votes, no is winning by 83%. 18% say yes. I think I'll end that poll. I think I convinced people there that I think that the parallel would be a bit silly. I think if Varys's fate was the same as Larys's fate, that would be kind of lame. Okay, what are people saying? Day after the episode premieres, the day after, or the next day. Now, some people want it right now. Sure, give me 5 minutes and I'll prepare a live stream about episode 1 of season 2. Harris Swift is a faceless man. Stannis the man is hired to make the current ruling establishment look silly in front of the Iron Bank. So dumb. Thank you, Bryndon Bloodraven. I often get Bittersteel in my chat, and I occasionally get Bloodraven in my chat, but I never seem to get them at the same time. I wonder if it's the same guy with 2 accounts, or whether they just like avoid each other like the plague because of all that beef, that familial beef. People are saying day after. Yeah, because the thing is, if we do it immediately after the episode, like, it will just clash with AltShiftX live stream, and like, you know, a live stream Quinn and I do is not gonna be serviced by AltShiftX streaming at the same time, because he's gonna pull in like 10k people, and hell, I'm gonna want to watch it, right? So, and plus, because I'm in the UK, when House of Dragon will come out at 2 a.m. in the morning, and then it'll be finished at 3 a.m. And then it'll be a live stream will be like 3:30, and it'll be 3:30 till whenever. Which I'm happy to do, right? Because it's my job. It'll be awesome. But yeah, that's also something to take into account. And my sleep schedule during the hot D8 weeks is going to be wild. Okay, I think it's time. Yeah. Tarbeck says, I usually take some time to gather my thoughts and opinions. That's what I was thinking. That, like, if you talk about it directly after, there's so much you're going to miss out on that you don't remember, or you didn't analyse properly, or you haven't seen what the community's opinion is to contrast yours with. I think if it's immediate, then it's just kind of like, it's just going to be like a hype. Oh, this is so awesome, and there's no, like, you got to wait for the analysis, the analytical brain to kick in, you know. Haven, are you a shifty? Hell yeah, I'm a shifty. I love Alt Shift X. I even like that scumbag Alt Shift X. Long-time listeners are now confused that I said I'm from the UK and not from Guantanamo Bay. They're questioning their reality right now. Oh, dropped my pen. This is the same pen I broke in my last live stream because I was fiddling with it, by the way. Shall we move on? I believe we've only got one more theory. Dun, 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 dun. Lord Varys is a merman. So, I'm saying so like I'm about to jump into some like deep, complex, serious theory. It's like Varys is a merman. So, the idea behind this theory, of course, is that mermen exist, mermaids exist, merlings exist, half human, half fish. There's a historical, a mythological legend known as the Merlin King. And that, no, they are not actually myths, they are real. And Varys is one of them. He is a merman. You know, he's bald. Apparently that's somehow relevant. He wears robes. Why? Because he's hiding a fishy lower torso. He has no legs. He's just, I guess, sliding around and no one can tell because he's got robes on. I believe when Arya is hiding in the tunnels and listening to Varys and Illyrio, she hears a dripping sound. A dripping sound. Why? Because water is dripping off of his body. Because he's a creature. What else? Well, I'm trying to remember. Oh yeah, like Littlefinger has a boat called the Merlin King, right? The Merlin King. Again, why is that relevant? Because Littlefinger's not Littlefinger's not Varys, so you may be asking, why is that relevant? What's that got to do with anything? Fuck you, that's what. What's the evidence here? Does someone know? I can't think of anything apart from, like, he wears robes and hides his fishiness, and Arya once heard dripping water, and Littlefinger, someone else, has a boat with the word Merlin in it, and therefore Varys is a merman? Like, what else is it? There has to be more. There has to be more. Oh, of course, I almost forgot. The fact that he says, you know, Tyrion, you throw me in the sea, I'll keep on paddling. Why? Because he's a merman. There we go. Yeah. I can't... Please, if anyone is more... has more knowledge about the whole Varys merman theory, feel free to throw it my way, because I'm struggling here. This is an old one. This is like... Varys merman is like time-traveling fetus Tyrion theory era, right? There's like... When the fandom snapped, at a certain point, the fandom snapped, and the weird things started leaking through the cracks, and that involved time-traveling fetus and Varys. Yeah, people have lost the plot waiting for wins. So there we have it. The iceberg theory. If you stick around, then I'll go through what my plan is for the future. I've already talked about it, actually, haven't I? Working on a bunch of videos that will be released during Hot D. There'll probably be some content released before Hot D. Maybe I should release some shorts. Experiment with YouTube Shorts. There'll probably be one final trailer for House of the Dragon, and I'll do a fun breakdown of that if that does come out. And yeah, if you're not subscribed, subscribe to the channel. If you haven't liked the video, feel free to do that. If you want to check out the Patreon, check it out. At the lowest tier, you get exclusive access to the Patreon Discord, where you can chat with me and other patrons, and we have voice chat sessions and all that kind of stuff. Higher tiers, there's also exclusive videos such as the history of House Dane, and there's extended videos for the High Towers and the Royces and so on. And there's even a tier where, guess what, I will draw a character for you in my style. And if you go, and there's another tier where it cameos in a video, right? There's loads of fun stuff. So you can support me that way, or you can support the channel by checking out fantasyhavenmerch.com. I don't know why I said .com. That wasn't like a dumb joke. I just said it weirdly. Yeah, we have a merch page. I keep forgetting to promote it, but yeah, there's some merch: t-shirts, hoodies, beanies. Maybe I'll sell some caps too, some baseball caps when summer comes, and some mugs because everyone loves mugs. So feel free. That's in the description. Feel free to check out the merch. Don't be put off by the fact that everything's black. Like, you can change the color. Yeah. There we go. I love when people call me Heaven instead of Haven. Fantasy Heaven. Oh, and also check out the Interesting Nerd Club. They'll be uploading a video probably in the next few days that I have a cameo in. I had a cheeky little role in one of their theory videos. So that was fun. But yes. I guess it's time to wrap up. I want to keep live streaming, but I can't think of anything more to say. The iceberg has been done. We're ready for the future. I need to hear your thoughts and expectations for the Duncan Egg show. That'll probably be a different live stream. So obviously, while I'm working on all this Hot D content, I need to keep everyone satiated with shorts and live streams and so on. So there'll be more live streams. Excuse me. More live streams, and that will include talking about expectations for Hot D Season 2, but also Duncan Egg and looking at the casting and all that good stuff. And I definitely want to do more collab stuff with Quinn GM, because let's be honest, live streams with other people are infinitely more entertaining for you and me than me rambling for 2 hours. Is Quinn the GM a warg? Yes, he is. I was going to say something inappropriate there. Okay, goodbye everyone. I'm going to have some food. Oh shit, I pressed the wrong thing.